Know what the difference is between you and me? I make this look good.
Happy birthday to us, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they hold up. I'm holed up with Andrew to my left and Kyle on the Fresh Take Hotline. I think Subway dropped their sponsorship after last episode.
Yeah.
It's actually a sex hotline. It's a phone sex hotline.
That's why they dropped us. They sent us a cease and desist.
Quickly.
Like, we don't want any association with you. We've had enough bad PR. Let's not make this worse, fellas.
Kyle, how long have you been working on a sex hotline?
I don't currently work on one. I was actually born on the sex hotline, so it's kind of like ingrained in my DNA. Don't ask about the logistics. It doesn't really make any sense.
Does it pay well?
Oh, I don't do it for pay. I do it for French fries. I get paid exclusively in French fries from Burger King.
That opened.
Oh, wow.
More doors and more questions.
Which way do we go from here?
I don't know. We're really circling the bowl here. But, Andrew, this is a big episode, isn't it?
It's something. You know.
Wow. Nice. This is the first episode we ever did was a year ago this episode. We tested out the format, and it was a 3-hour long episode, if I'm not mistaken.
It was like 2 hours and like 50 minutes, I think. So yeah, right around that 3-hour mark.
This is
impressive.
right when we figured out that the format is not a play-by-play. It is a brief overview because, damn it.
When are we going to learn? When are we going to fucking learn then?
It was us experimenting with the technology, too, at the time to try to launch this podcast. So
we had shitty mics and shitty dicks that didn't work. They still don't work. But
shitty dicks that don't work?
Yeah, we have dicks that don't really work all that well.
Do you have gonorrhea?
Sure, we can go with that.
Speaking of gonorrhea, what episode are we doing today? We're doing Men in Black.
The Men in Black, yeah. Classic.
A big one. And this is what we wanted to start off with. We're going to do our redemption story with Men in Black.
Yeah, I love that we're wishing ourselves happy birthday and bringing it.
No one else will.
You're right. But
correct. Fans from Germany do so.
We're fishing for attention right now. I hope you think about that.
We really are. And we're looking up to you, to our neighbors to the north, Canada, listening to the show. Please wish us a happy birthday. Germany, also, please wish us a happy birthday because we depend on you guys. Thank you.
But I specifically would like to request somebody from Alberta to wish us a happy birthday, vocally. So,
Kyle, I know what you're referencing here. I sent you another one.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I also love inside jokes, but we'll get to that later. Men in Black. But before we get to Men in Black, Kyle, can you describe your energy level in the form of alien technology?
I am interested.
Alien technology?
Alien technology.
Ooh, this is going to be a good one. All right. You know, like when an alien spacecraft theoretically crashes in the Nevada desert, and you go up to it and you see it, it's all shiny and it looks really cool. And as soon as you walk up on it, you get this really funny metallic tinny taste on the tip of your tongue, and you're like, that's weird. And you see the spacecraft door open that has no seams and it just kind of pops open out of nowhere, and you climb inside, and it's all a bunch of just weirdly small areas to sit, and it's amorphous, and as soon as you're in there, you kind of get this like grainy vision, and you start vomiting, and then you walk outside, and all of a sudden you piss your pants and forget exactly where you are. You wake up a day later and you're shitting out your organs because you have radiation poisoning, and then you die. That's kind of where I'm at today, I think.
Wow, that was a journey.
That was a Men in Black sequel.
Yeah,
I think
that's a scene from Men in Black 3.
Yeah, probably.
That was the porn one, right?
Yeah, it was X-rated. Yeah.
Was it called Black and Men?
Something like that, yeah.
That's what it was, Black and Men.
Well, Kyle, yes. I'm glad you're doing well. Look, this has a lot of staying power because of what it did to our youth at the time.
It was a big movie.
And before we start anywhere, we have to mention one thing with this movie.
Oh yeah.
You're just gonna have to, Chase. You're gonna have to just use the one that we originally did, and I want you to use that as many times as you can this podcast.
Okay. You should splice over some of like the original recording. Like, here, this is how shitty we sounded when we first started out.
What do you guys remember about that song?
I remember hearing it. It was on the TV. Was it played on the radio?
Yeah. I mean, it was a huge hit.
Yeah.
Do you remember the music video?
Vaguely. again, I
It was
only
kind of a boring.
I was only
one, if I
5
remember.
years old. Actually, I wasn't even 5 when this movie came out, so it would have been a couple years after before I actually got into it. I remember seeing it on like MTV, but I don't remember how it went down. So someone help me out here with the
So
actual
I
video
remember
itself.
the video being. It was kind of like a scene from the movie, but they were inside the Men in Black offices or the headquarters.
Okay.
And basically, the Men in Black are dancing with aliens.
Yep, okay.
And it's just that. And at the end, Will Smith looks at the camera and just neuralizes.
Yep, that's right.
So that's all I remember from that. But I remember it being on TRL.
TRL.
Oh yeah, TRL.
Yeah,
was TRL?
TRL. It was like the morning MTV
Okay, yeah.
music, right, Kyle? Like, or was that
Yes.
afternoon?
No, TRL was, I believe, was the morning. They were still doing that in the mornings at that time. I
Okay.
think they did shift it to the afternoons at one time, but that was where, like, I mean, TRL throwback, TRL, MTV, back when they were still playing music was like, I mean, you wake up, and this was like this was later on. I wasn't doing it at this point. I was still very much jazzed on Cartoon Network and Dragon Ball Z and Gundam, but TRL, man, that was what celebrity was going to show up and promote their music video or their movie or whatever Jackass was doing at the time.
Backstreet
Like,
Boys was big on TRL back at that
they were
time.
big.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of really cool pop culture, and by cool I mean homogenized white pop culture for the most part at the beginning, and then in like the 2000s it kind of shifted to be a more like inclusive, more fun melting pot.
Was the host like Carson? Was it Carson Daly? No.
I thought
Carson
well,
Beck,
I don't
I
know. I thought it was him, but like I think they had different hosts.
Yeah, because I
With the
remember
most.
he was the primary host, but they would always have It was in Times Square, and it was like one of those shows where they had the glass, and you could see everybody just on Times Square.
Yep.
Andrew, do you know what number Men in Black, the theme song, checked in on the Billboard Top 100?
Was it 1?
Was not one. Kyle,
2.
do you want to take a guess?
Oh, it was number 3, wasn't it?
It didn't check in at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Believe it or
Really?
not, it could not chart on the Billboard Top 100 because it was not released as a commercial single. It was released as a part of
the
Big,
movie.
Big Willie style.
Okay. So
Ew.
would Wild Wild West fall into the same category?
I think Wild Wild West was released as its own single.
Ah, fuck that.
He learned.
This song's
he
better.
learned.
Yeah, this
Than
song
Wild
is
Wild
way
West.
better
Yeah.
than Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West was a good song, though.
No, fuck it.
The movie sucked.
Hey,
but
we shouldn't get into that.
Okay, well, this is also pre-Wild Wild West. This is when Will Smith was actually doing good work. But, yeah, the song charted all over the world. It charted in the U.S. in different categories. It just could not chart in the top 100.
Interesting.
Australia carried this song. It was
Thank
big in
fuck for
Australia.
Australia. You know, what would we do without the Aussies? And that's not sarcasm. I love Australia.
We love the Australians.
Yeah, they're good people.
Fucking love you.
And they got
love
good
you all.
taste and everything. Those fuckers gave us Tame and Power. So
They
love
did.
'em.
They gave us time and power.
They gave us
and
AC/DC.
They gave, and they're gonna love this. They gave us chlamydia too. from the drop band.
You know, it's funny. My ancestry goes back to Australia because
They were criminals?
from Ireland. Yeah, I swear to God.
Wait.
Hardened criminals?
But this movie in general was just like a huge pop culture phenomenon.
Yeah,
and that last
it was.
that's I mean it still is. That's why we're revisiting it.
It's funny because we watched this movie. We did it before. We did it last year, and we
Yeah.
got to rewatch it. So this is the first movie we've seen twice before we actually recorded and reviewed it.
One thing that I want to get into was some of the marketing, and we've done many movies that had huge marketing ploys, and this one was no exception. Commercials. Kyle mentioned he's paid in Burger King fries for being on his sex hotline. Burger King commercial was it was a core memory for us.
And we're
for
doing
others.
Burger King again. Now.
Hell yeah.
Will Smith and Burger King in the 90s. So
Yeah.
you couldn't go and not see that guy there.
He made a killing from that shit.
Did you have a lot of the Burger King toys?
I don't believe I did because, again, this movie didn't hit me until after it was released. Again, I was only like 4 going on 5. I was a little too young for it at the time. But
Kyle, did you have Burger King toys?
Yes. We had the neuralizer.
That was a
I
big
think there
one.
were sunglasses.
there were sunglasses.
There was some other stuff too that I think that I definitely had from this one.
You know somebody was shoving that neuralizer up their ass. Like some
Or-
doctor's office somewhere was like removing that from someone's colon.
Or another.
I wasn't going to go there immediately, Chase, but I think I think you can probably provide insight on that based on your previous response.
It was definitely used as a
did-
sex toy, along as a regular toy.
I did
so.
have the
People-
neuralizer. It broke really quick.
Did it
though,
break inside you and you had to have it surgically removed?
before?
Okay, luckily for you, you didn't have to go to the ER and embarrassingly tell the doctor that you have a neuralizer stuck in your anus. So,
And what's also crazy is this was another movie that sold sunglasses too at
Yeah.
Burger King. Like Burger King had 2 movies in the 90s where you're getting cheap plastic or the coat hanger sunglasses, whichever one you
Coat
preferred. But did you have a pair of the glasses, Kyle?
I believe I did, but they did not last very long. With having a very young brother. What year did this come out? It was 97?
97.
Yeah.
June 4th or
Yeah.
July
So,
2nd,
2-year-old
something like that.
2 to 3-year-old little mischief heathen running around.
July
Didn't
2nd.
last very long. Yeah, the neuralizer had a few good little like pop-up noises on it before it kicked the bucket. But I mean, what are you gonna do with cheap Taiwanese plastic? You know, it is what it is.
The light on it would go out like really quick. I think you got like
Very.
2 or 3 flashes and then it exploded.
I don't think there was a way to change the batteries either, so it was kind of like a pump and dump.
Once
You
it
kinda
was
had to
done,
go
it was
for
done.
It was done.
That's kind of sad to think about, but
Does either one of you remember the animated series?
vaguely
Yes,
remember
because
it.
there
but-
was also this is also around the time of the Godzilla animated series, but I do remember. Yes.
Yeah, because that was when they were turning big time. Like, I guess you would call this a family movie. It's PG-13, right? So
yeah.
it's PG-13, but it's still kind of like a family-based action comedy. So you would get like at least one Fox executive being like, "Yeah, we should turn that into an animated show," and then it ran for 4 seasons apparently.
Did it really?
Yeah, it ran a long time.
Did Will Smith do the voice?
No,
I didn't
no, they
think
couldn't.
so. They couldn't afford him at that
afford-
point.
Not Fox's animated TV series.
I mean,
no.
it's Fox. Fox has a lot of money.
Yeah,
so
but they were dumping a lot of money into just these IPs.
dump
at
a
the
lot of
time.
money into me, Daddy.
Kyle, anything else you remember other than the animated series from Men in Black?
Yeah, I do remember the Burger King Happy Meals, the themed ones. They had a certain kind of cover art on them that I found very alluring, as did my brother, and we would go beg for those. Aside from that, though, it was pretty limited to just the Happy Meal toys and the box that it came in. That was about it.
But not Happy Meal, because Burger King would fucking sue you if they heard you say that.
No,
So, you know,
I
they
think
would.
I'm actually correct on that.
Oh, okay. Then I'll let that be.
What was it? The Frowny Meal?
I don't know. The
Sad
Burger
meal.
King even, I think it was just kids meals. I don't think they had a name for it. So
I'll be honest with you. If my mom took me to Burger King over McDonald's, it was a sad meal because
Really?
because I hated Burger King when I was a kid.
are
Must be
you
hard to be a rat.
are you stupid, Chase?
I could
Burger
be,
King always
a little
trumps
bit.
McDonald's. Always.
I don't
no matter
think so.
what.
I mean, there are certain things that Burger King has that I do believe are
like
better
a
than
flame
certain.
broiled burger.
Yeah. I think Burger King's fries are really good. I don't know if they're
I do
better.
too.
I think they're better than McDonald's fries. McDonald's fries are lasting and like iconic, but the actual flavor of Burger King fries are better, in my
They're also
opinion.
more substantive. They're
Yeah.
bigger.
They're
not as
thicker, meatier, juicier. So, yeah.
But talking about this movie, though, it was everywhere. We had Burger King kids meals, we had theme songs, we had an animated series, and this movie, believe it or not, is the first successful Marvel movie.
Is it really
Huh?
Marvel?
It's a Marvel comic.
I guess that
Yeah.
tracks, but I didn't realize that it was.
Was it before or after the movie came out that it was a comic?
It was before. It started in the early 90s, 90 to 91. It didn't run very long, but I think it was under the Marvel umbrella. So this is the first very successful Marvel movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And they don't give any credence to that in the credits or pre-credits or anything like that. So.
Yeah.
Because it was
that-
probably owned by a different
Well, and it-
distributor by the time.
And, yeah, I think Universal bought it at that point, and Universal owned like the movie rights, so they didn't have to tag anything back to Marvel. Because if you remember, Sony bought the Spider-Man rights for a while.
Had them for.
And-
they still have partial rights, I believe. but-
Right, like those things don't expire for a very long time. There was a time in the 90s when Marvel was almost bankrupt, so they were just selling properties out left and right. That's how Universal got the Marvel Studios kind of area in Islands of Adventure. And then they were able to sell all these movies off. They sold Spider-Man to Sony for a good chunk of change, but
Millions.
nothing like it's worth.
No.
But so people took advantage of Marvel when they were just trying to burn assets at that time.
Speaking of Universal, before we get into the blow-by-blow, I know you know a lot about the Men in Black Universal ride.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that needs to be discussed because that's still operating. It's still a big ride.
And me and Andrew got to ride that last year.
Yeah, we did in October.
Right when they refurbished it, which is crazy. It's been around since, what, 2001?
Think so. I think it was 2001. It was after the movie for sure. It wouldn't be beforehand, but I think it was a few years afterwards. Let me see if I can find the actual.
Because think about 2001, if that's when it operated. That's over 20 years of operation.
April 14th, 2000, actually. So
25 years
25
of that
years
ride.
and counting.
Yeah. And so that ride to be operational at that point and them putting more money into refurbishing it last year.
Yeah.
That's some staying power for a theme park ride. You never see a theme park ride
I
last
don't
that
think
long.
they're going to get rid of it anytime soon. Because didn't Spielberg have like some sort of like...
qualm with it.
Yeah,
No,
or-
he's dying on that ET hill. He's not.
it was E.T., that's right.
He told Universal if they get rid of ET,
That's
he'll
right.
murder their families.
That's right.
And pull all of his agreements.
I mean, Men in Black and E.T. might be there when we go on to the next life.
Yeah, who knows? Lord help. I think Men in Black will get replaced this
So probably. It is getting a little old, but
Yeah.
I think if this movie teaches us anything, it's that there is no other life.
for sure, Kyle. Thank you.
The quote of the episode there. Moving forward, what kind of numbers did this movie do, Andrew?
Do you think it was a success, fellas? Do you think it did well?
I think it
Go
did
ahead and
well,
say-
but I think it was labeled a failure.
I don't know about that.
I do know that, though.
Was it really labeled a failure?
That Universal has claimed that Men in Black lost them a bunch of money.
I mean, I could see that. Budget of $90 million. Domestic gross $250 million and some change. Internationally, $338 and some change altogether. $589 worldwide is what they grossed
On
there.
a $90 million budget.
$90 million budget, and it's still considered a loss.
So one of the screenwriters that worked on it said that Universal has claimed to him that there's going to be no royalties from it.
Yeah.
Because it was a failure.
Wow.
And there's none of the money adds up, but that's Hollywood accounting for you. And I think we've talked about that on the show.
we have how they cook their books in certain ways.
Add the marketing budget in and all this other stuff and make it look like a failure and so they can rake in more money.
I love them because they're scrupulous.
And you are a scrupulous soul yourself, so you relate
But-
to that.
I'm a soldier of Christ. What can I say?
You're a pariah.
So we have to talk about this right before we do the blow by blow. Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones are a great duo in this movie.
They really are.
They work off each other very well. Their dynamic works, and it makes for some really comedic moments, even when they're not using dialogue. We almost got a different duo. I don't know if you know this, Andrew.
Yes. Remind me who.
I remember.
I think we talked about it.
It was Kevin Spacey, Macaulay Culkin.
I thought it was Martin Lawrence and Steve Martin.
It was Chris O'Donnell was in the role of Jay at one point, and we had
That's right.
and they really wanted Clint Eastwood. So could you imagine Clint Eastwood and Chris O'Donnell
Well,
in this?
Chris O'Donnell's career went down the shitter after Batman and Robin. So
Yeah, but this was before Batman and Robin.
no, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. Batman and Robin was 98.
No, are you serious? I thought it was 96.
Yeah.
No way. No way.
Yeah,
Hold on. I have to verify this.
because 96 was forever.
I don't. It was 97. Batman and Robin was 97.
So it's the same year.
Same year. I guess maybe he chose this over Men in Black. I wouldn't say he chose it, but he went and did Men in Black, or went and did this as opposed to Men in Black.
If you want to hear our thoughts on Chris O'Donnell in Batman and Robin, you can go back to season 1 and listen to that episode. But in the meantime, you can stay right here and listen to us talk about Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, the greatest dynamic duo
Queen.
ever in a sci-fi movie. Are we ready to go back in time?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
All right.
do each other in the process as well.
All right, that's wonderful. I love that. Kyle, where does Men in Black start?
With a fucking dragonfly, bitch.
Hell yeah.
So, Kyle, I want to ask you, I think I'm trying to remember all the stuff we talked about before, but do you remember that opening sequence reminded you so much of like
Close Encounters of the Third
Tim
Kind.
Burton, like Beetlejuice. It had those kind of vibes to it.
Yeah, because of the scroll, the actual like words on the screen, the lettering, and the score of the music as the score of the movie as well, which it is a good score, by the way. And just kind of how everything was laid out, very dark. It was taking place during night as well.
And Danny Elfman did the score too,
Mm-hmm.
and which
Good old
I never
Danny.
knew until I rewatched it. I was like, wow, of course he did it. It's just right up his alley with the
It
kind
is.
of like whimsical style of score.
It is non-realistic, easily believable, but not realistic.
He's good at fitting the tone because
does.
the score really fits this movie. Like it really makes you feel like you're kind of watching an episode of Outer Limits a little bit.
Well,
And-
you
and
could
Outer
say
Banks.
that he understood. Yes, Outer Banks for sure. Teen sex. But you could say he understood the assignment.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. And this is all practical too. This is like little set pieces that this dragonfly is on that they're moving him through, and then basically you see this dragonfly and it's flying around as we introduce the credits of the movie, and then the dragonfly just dies. It just hits a fucking truck.
Driven by Uncle Rico.
Yeah.
That's right. It is Uncle Rico.
John Grice, yeah. And what does he have in the back of this van truck that he's driving?
Our first look at aliens.
What
Just
kind
not
of aliens?
illegal aliens.
How,
The illegal
how
ones.
poignant.
Yeah.
Poignant.
So,
Very poignant.
So he's driving this group of people, these
Illegal aliens.
aliens, and they're in. I assume it looks like Texas, like
southwest.
So I'm assuming from Mexico. I don't think it's ever established where
No.
they're coming from, but they all speak Spanish. So.
They speak Spanish.
So they're crossing, and he runs into some border patrol and some police officers, and they've got the road blocked. And one of the officers comes over to him, and he says, "Hey, what you got there? Where you coming from?" And he's like, "Fishing." He was like, "Oh, well, you should have thrown him back." And he moves everybody out of the van, has them line up, and basically they're getting ready to arrest and deport them.
Because they're illegal.
Yeah, because they're
Don't
coming,
forget.
they're coming over illegally, and next thing you know, these two agents show up in suits.
Tommy Lee Jones steps out, sunglasses on. He's like, "We'll handle it here, folks." And the state trooper's like, "Who the fuck are you?"
For real.
Yeah, that's exactly how it went down. And they already have the illegal aliens lined up.
Well, and he's talking to him in Spanish,
Spanish.
and he's just saying stuff like, "Welcome to America. Everything's going to be okay. You'll be fine."
A lot of them are responding.
Yeah.
Until we get to the last one, who's this tall doofus looking. He's wearing like a poncho over his body, and he's just smiling like and grinning like an idiot, and just nodding his head to everything that.
What does Tommy Lee Jones say to him?
Oh, he's like,
insults
"You're an
him in
ugly little
Spanish.
shit, aren't you?"
Yeah, he's like, "What if
Quite
I just
fat.
What if I just punch you in the face right now, or something like that?"
And he's just like,
Yeah.
and he's like, "You don't speak a lick of Spanish," and they're playing it off too and laughing.
they
And-
know that he's actually an alien
Yeah, so they
from outer space.
pull him aside, and they take him, and they're like, "Everyone else, you're free to leave." And one of the officers, "Sir, what are you doing here? You don't have the authority." He's like, "You don't know what you're dealing with, do you?" And then he walks the guy down this embankment.
They're like in some like gully or like ditch away from
Yeah.
the noise and the crowd, up the hill. They're having a little one-on-one sesh with him.
And he's talking to him, and now in a different language. It's like alien language.
Yeah, it's like he's C-3PO, just like
Yeah.
pulling it out of his ass,
And-
talking.
I'm doing pretty million forms of communication.
And he's like,
Exactly, Kyle.
and he like pulls the costume off. He's like, "Mikey," and so it's an alien that they were working on, and they're sitting there talking. He's like, "You're not supposed to be here," kind of thing.
And
Like,
he's holding like a metal like rod that's connected to this,
a very good practical effect.
Yeah,
Very good.
The head of the guy that he was posing as, and it's an alien. It's an alien from outer space, and I don't remember what was said, but they're having conversations. They know each other. They're aware of each other's existence. Mikey, I guess, left the Earth without permission and tried to come back without permission. I think he had some warrants or something like that. I don't know. But at that point forward, one of the idiot state troopers looks down in the gulch and sees this fucking creature talking to Tommy Lee Jones and his partner, and he's like, "What the whoa," and you could see his spirit leaves his body, essentially. He can't believe his eyes. And Mikey, the alien, recognizes him, and like something clicks, and he gets really mad, and some sort of angry rage takes over, animalistic rage takes over, and he starts going going at this guy, like running full speed at this trooper, and then right at the
He
last
must have
minute,
been on roids.
had to have been. That's why he was wanted. But he gets to the trooper, and right at the last moment, what happens? Kyle, tell us.
Well, Mikey just mic'd his last Mikey. He got yeeted, folks.
Yeah.
He gets disintegrated
Into a
all over
bluey,
our little
gooey
our friend.
form.
Yeah, it's like really bad bukkake. It's like he just gets like
Well, there's no such thing as
slimed.
bad bukkake. It's just more about your mentality. But go ahead.
Well, I think that speaks more to your deranged sexual fantasies, Andrew.
Well, basically, Kay pulled out his gun and blew him to smithereens. But in the meantime, what happened when Kay had to shoot him? It was his partner that got knocked down.
He couldn't get his gun out, and he was struggling because he's old, and he's like fumbling for it. And
Right.
And we understand it's time for him to retire and that he must find a new partner.
So what happens? What happens next at the end of this? They neuralize the state troopers, which is, of course, a great
Natural.
intro to the neuralizer. Tells them, what they experienced and, resets their brain. But then who else gets neuralized?
Wait, explain the neuralizer real quick for the people out back home that don't remember, because it was a pretty big staple of this movie.
It was. So the neuralizer is this wand that has like a red light that,
it's kind of about
illuminates.
It's as
with the
big
touch
as
of
a
a button.
pen.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than a pen.
Yeah.
But they put their sunglasses on. They hold the neuralizer in front of someone's face, and they say, "Look at the red light." They hit the button. There's a poof of this illuminating light that then resets their memory from that point in the past 15 minutes or something like that.
He says he can set how long he wants to erase. So he erases all these state troopers, and this is how they stay under the surface and keep people from figuring out that aliens exist, which I think is a very clever plot point.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It is.
And
It's basically just a more convenient roofie. It's one of the reasons why Kevin Spacey was not allowed to work on this movie.
Yeah, because he was big into the roofie scene at that point in his career.
He was.
He was
Could you
heavily
imagine if
into
he
it.
had this piece of technology in his hands?
There would have been a lot of rewrites. There might have been some creative issues with him and the writer. So yeah, messy when you get into the weeds of it all.
Well, and messy leads us into our next thing. The cleanup crew arrives, and they're cleaning up a lot of the entrails all over the cactuses and working with the state troopers to make sure that they don't remember. This crew is really quick on the scene for anything in this movie.
Really hot, too. A lot of hot men in this cleanup crew.
Very attractive.
Bulging,
Sexually speaking.
dripping, just good-looking dudes.
And then at this point, the partner tells Kay he's ready to retire.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa. And he's like, okay.
That's too damn bad.
Yeah, too damn bad. Just kidding. Here, I'm going to pull out my neuralizer and zap you.
And so he wipes his entire career away.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? What?
No, you couldn't. No, because in effect, Chase, you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah,
But I mean, you
know.
would just we'll get into that later when we get further in the movie. 'cause
maybe we will, maybe we
yeah.
won't. But
I just couldn't imagine just not remembering 70% of my life.
No, I mean, you just ask a 40-year-old linebacker.
ask Brian Urlacher.
That's true.
Yeah,
But anyway, so now Kay does not have a partner anymore, and that's the point where we need to cut to Will Smith.
He's running in the streets. He's chasing some
he's
perp
sprinting.
down.
So cool.
And what's he wearing? What is he wearing?
A jumpsuit.
An orange
Prison
jumpsuit
it
with
was
a
seen.
white T-shirt while in Tim's, aka Timberlands.
And he's got his jacket tied around his waist. And he just got his badge hanging from
It's like a necklace.
And he's running with these other NYPD police officers who are out of shape and cannot catch up.
But Will Smith is,
Right. He's not wearing a gun belt or anything.
he's athletic as fuck, too.
Yeah, they made him look like a track star in this, which I'm sure he's pretty athletic, but he was...
Sure.
He was getting after it in this. So he's chasing down this criminal and trying to catch up to him. And it's a long foot race scene where the criminal is being very erratic. He's jumping from like bridges.
Yeah.
And there's one line I remember that actually made me really laugh. It's like one where Will Smith ends up on the top of the tourist bus, the double-decker tourist bus.
Yeah.
And he goes, "This is just raining black people in New York."
Raining from the sky, black people raining from the sky, or something like that.
That still makes me laugh. And then he runs off the bus. They end up getting to this building, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this, Kyle. So they get to this building that has no purpose other than just being a giant like cylinder with a bunch of ramps in it.
I think it's a parking garage.
Yeah,
I think it's cylindrical and it has a perpetual ramp going up in a circle, spiraling on the inside.
And then Will Smith, like, Kyle, you're a big runner. He's running up a 45% incline.
He's running up. It's at the very least 6% incline. Full on sprinting, same speed that he did on the flat ground. He
never let up. He just kept going and going.
And there is
no
zero chance that would ever happen in real life.
That's an Olympic athlete right there. Like running up
not
that
even an
incline.
Olympic
Yeah,
athlete
but
would
no
be able to do that.
Because how many stories do you think there was, Andrew?
Like
at least 12.
12,
Yeah.
12 to 15. It wasn't
running
a
up a
skyscraper,
6%.
but you could do it if you put your mind to it. Remember, if there's a will, there's a way.
There's a Smith.
And there's a torn Achilles somewhere in there, too.
Especially if you're wearing fucking Timbs.
Yeah, that's the thing that doesn't get. I'm like, maybe
Those are heavy, man.
Conditions were right, and he was not wearing any kind of limiting clothing at all. But that's not what it is.
But anyway, he somehow catches up to this alien. They're on the roof now, and the alien gives him some sort of like
Cryptic message.
Yeah, he says like
the universe is going to end.
They're coming.
They're coming.
Or he's coming.
That's right, he's coming. He's coming.
But what happened? But this is what I remember the most from this first part as a child. And what happens, Andrew? He's like, when he says this, and he's like, he's coming.
His
and he starts
eyes.
laughing. What
his
happens?
Eyes. You see another set of eyes appear that looks almost like creature or bug-like.
So he's got regular
human eyes,
horizontal eye slits that like a regular human being, but then also horizontal ones that blink.
Yeah,
terrifying.
They were almost like snake eyes.
Yeah.
They were creepy.
I do remember that creeping me out as a child. I did not like that. The guy jumps off the building.
He kills himself.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see him splatter on the pavement below, but it's assumed.
The radar cut would have had that.
Yeah.
Which he's alien.
Hey, who cares?
So, yeah.
We already saw Mikey get blasted. Why can't we see this dude splatter over the pavement?
I really do think aliens, you can get away with it because it's not actual blood.
It's not actual humans.
Yeah,
Who cares if something else other than ourselves die?
Right, you see, when you get Frank the Pug later, you can just boot him into traffic. And then
Give him
that should
shaken
be...
baby syndrome, too.
Yeah. Anyway, so Will Smith comes down. He's next day. He's in this interrogation room, and his sergeant's trying to figure out what happened. He's like, "Why did this guy?"
And he's like, "I'm
jump?
telling you, I saw some creature eyes behind this dude's real eyes." And they're like, "Okay, you're a silly little NYPD cop. I mean,
You're a rookie."
Yeah.
Like, they're browbeating him at this point. But he, like, one of the best parts too is so the officer that couldn't catch up because he was out of breath, just jogging probably 10 feet, was in the background going, "You wish you were half the man I was." He's like, "What are you talking about? I am half the man you are." Still one of those lines that makes me laugh. But anyway, you see this mortician come in, and she starts talking to Will, and she's like, "I believe you. You got to come to exam room, whatever. I've got something to show you." And as she's walking out, Kay shows up and just neuralizes her and just wipes her memory.
And, turns out he neuralized the other interrogating cops, too.
Yeah. And he unplugs the security camera and starts like kind of doing his own interrogation work to figure out what he knows.
Asking questions about what Will Smith saw. He knows that he encountered an alien.
And there was a gun at one point that the alien pulled out, and Will Smith knocked it out of his hand.
And it shattered everywhere.
So Kay's like, "Could you identify that weapon if I showed it to you?" And Will's like, "Absolutely." So they end up going for a car ride over to, I don't know if you saw this, but it was Universal Artifacts or something like that.
Oh, little nuggets.
Little nugget there. But basically they're going to a pawn shop where they meet
Dickbag Jones. Oh, it's Tony Shalhoub, but
Tony Shalhoub. And so Monk is
AKA
behind
Dickbag Jones. Go on.
He's behind the counter. And Kyle, what happens next?
This whole series of events ensues where they play cat and mouse, and by they I mean Jay and Tony Shalhoub. What's his name in the movie? What's the fucking kid's name?
Oh, is it Jeeves?
Jeeves.
Yeah,
Jeeves.
because it was
Fucking
Jeeves'
of course.
pawn shop or whatever.
And yeah, it kind of talks like this, and Jay's gay, you know. I was hoping you weren't going to come in today. And what are you doing? Don't touch that, day. And then he gets him to push this button, and everything inside the showcases in his pawn shop flip over in the showcases like a spy movie. And there's just all this alien weaponry.
What happens too is Jay and him are arguing, and Kay comes in and just blows his head off. And
That's right. Yes. How could we forget?
And Jay was like,
"How can you do that? Stings!"
And which was a crazy cool moment that I remember as a kid. I remember seeing his head grow back immediately and being like, "That's fucking cool. I love that."
Yeah.
And that was the first time that Jay was like, "Oh, he wasn't kidding. Aliens exist." And then he hits that button, and then you see all the alien weaponry, which Will Smith is able to point out the gun. And so now that they know there was illegal weapons on the alien itself.
And of course, Jeeves' head grew back without any issues whatsoever, and he was
very
fine.
sweaty.
He was sweaty, but he was fine. And he was like, "Man, don't do that to me again."
He's like, "Yeah, that stings." So now Kay is kind of intrigued by Jay because he ran down the alien that's supposedly really fast, and that's given him like the skill to be in the MIB. But
because he can run.
Because he
run
can
good.
Run good. And then so Kay flashes him again with the neuralizer, and they go to dinner, and he's like, "Wait, where am I?" And he's like, "You need to lay off the tequila. Remember, we have this appointment tomorrow at 9 a.m. And he gave him this like white Men in Black card with
Just an MIB, right?
Well, just an address at the bottom of it. So Jay takes the card, and then we flash over, and we see this farmhouse.
Oh yeah, this is a big scene.
Yeah.
It's a very important scene.
Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio is,
Which I want to say, who was set to play his role?
who?
Bruce Campbell.
That could have worked out.
That
too.
could have been really good. But
Honestly.
Bruce had other movie engagements he had to
Bruce would have
do.
been great in that role, but D'Onofrio was excellent. So,
Great.
but they're in the country somewhere that doesn't exactly specify.
It looks like rural Texas or something like that.
Oklahoma, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out in the boonies. He's in the house with his wife. You can tell he's kind of an angry soul. Not the nicest.
Well, he's like,
He's
I
almost like a
swear to
drunkard,
God, you're
but-
trying to kill me with this food. Is it poison? It is poison, isn't it? And then he's like, don't take that away. I was eating that. So it's like he's just like an abusive husband, piece of shit, like huge piece of shit.
So he gets what's coming to him here shortly, but there's a huge crash outside.
Right, because he was like, what did he say?
He was talking about his pickup truck.
Yeah, he was like, the only thing that can carry its weight around here is my goddamn truck.
And then, boom, something crashes into it from the sky.
he just goes, figures.
Yeah. Walks outside. He sees, his car is destroyed. There's a giant ditch in its place. There's also a flying saucer that had landed and severed it and destroyed it. And there's some sort of entity there talking to him. He has his shotgun or whatever. And what does he say to him? What are the lines?
So the creature goes, put
Down your firearm.
Yeah, put down your weapon. And he's like, you can have my shotgun when you pull it from my cold, dead, lifeless hands.
And he says, I agree to those terms.
Yeah, it was like, those can be arranged or something like that. And then he kills him.
and
That can be arranged.
Yes.
And then this big hand yanks him down into the fucking pit, and then there's like a struggle, and then all of a sudden you just see this fucking
Skin.
meat sack flop over of his face. It's essentially like they just took all of his skin out.
It's like a wrapper
clothes on it.
like a piece of candy. It was just like the wrapper was like perfect. Like the skin was not even severed.
From head to
anywhere.
toe,
Yeah.
every square inch of his body, the skin was removed with,
As
his...
a child, that terrified me.
Yeah.
That was scary.
It was unnerving. It was unsettling to watch even as an adult, too.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Good practical effects. Great practical effects. But
And the creature puts the skin on to disguise himself.
As
It puts the
Edgar.
lotion on the skin if it doesn't want the hose again.
It puts the face in the skin at this point.
Yeah.
So he goes inside where his wife is, and he looks horrible. Like, he looks bad. And that scared me. Like, him walking around with that skin on, you knew it. Like, still makes me shiver. But he goes in, and he goes, sugar. And she's like, what? Yeah, what did what? Sugar? How did sugar do that? He's like,
Sugar, water.
And so she puts a bunch of sugar in water.
She first puts in like a tablespoon, and he's like, more. And she eventually like dumps out the entire thing into like a 3/4 glass full of water, and he just chugs it.
It's like 8 ounces of water with like 4 pounds of sugar in it.
Mind you, he looks very deformed. His face is like lopsided.
It's already necrotic.
Yes.
So she's like
Putrefied, essentially.
She was like, Edgar, your skin is hanging.
And he's just like, what?
And he pulls his skin back, and she faints, and then he just walks out and get it. He's drinking sugar water because he's a cockroach.
Good physical acting there by D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, there are other effects they used, makeup and whatnot, but like he had to really rearrange how he used his fucking body.
I read an interview with him. He actually used braces on his legs.
That makes sense.
So he was walking. He was walking with braces on his legs so that it looked like he was someone tucked into a compressed suit
And didn't know how to walk as a human, essentially.
Right. Or like didn't know how
Very
to like
smart.
walk in that suit, like he was wearing an extra small pair of pants.
That is great acting. Congrats, Vincent.
Yeah.
I applaud you.
That is great acting.
It is.
He spent 8 hours in the makeup chair, and each day, because as we get along in this movie, we'll go ahead and mention it here, the suit gets more and more deformed. So because the skin is rotting, which I think is just a brilliant detail that they give it, that they don't have to give this movie, and they do. They go all the way there, where every time you see him the next time, the skin is rotting.
But at this point, we've established that this dude is
The threat.
He's
He
the
is the
villain.
threat.
He is what will end the universe, essentially.
Yeah, and
not
so-
essentially, definitely.
And we go to the next morning. Will Smith goes to this big open white room, and there's a bunch of military officials there, like
Dudes
high-ranking.
from, like West Point, Naval Academy, Air Force, a couple NYPD, like lieutenants, that kind of thing. No one from
Andrew, the Air
Coast
Force
Guard.
has an academy too. Okay,
That's why I said Air Force.
He didn't say Air Force Academy.
Excuse me, but I assumed that was implied. I said West
No.
Point. I said Naval Academy, Air Force. But anyways, they're all there for some sort of
exam. Like, it looks like they're all applying for this high-ranking job, and we meet Zed.
He was played by the great Rip Torn.
Rip Torn.
Excellent.
Great
role,
actor.
Great actor.
Great choice. R.I.P.
And Rip Torn, this is just like a legacy role for him because
100%.
everybody remembers him from this movie. But he is basically the director of this organization of the Men in Black, and he's administering this test. And you can tell this test is just to see how they operate. Kyle, you can probably answer this. This is probably a real thing, right? Where they like
What?
the test results don't matter as much as how you take the test.
Yeah, you can be taught how to become a better shooter. You can be taught how to do something procedurally, but like if you can't handle pressure and you can't handle certain circumstances a certain way, you can't follow orders a certain way, you can't follow directions a certain way, your attention to detail is lacking, you're not smart, they don't fucking care. They can teach anybody how to become a better shooter. They can teach anybody how to reload faster, how to rig a plastic explosive, but like if you don't have the mental acuity to do it, then that's a fail.
And explain how they do it in this scene.
So they go through a series of tests, literally like a written test first, in which they're in these stupid fucking chairs,
And they're
nobody
having
can figure out. And this again, it's more like an IQ test. I see it as where like all of the recruits are in these egg-like chairs, these like fucking 60s like chairs where it's like the egg is like a half-filled oval seat, and like
there's a cushion in that egg. Don't forget.
But like they hand them papers to take this test with pencils on it on a table in the middle of the room where they all are seated in this white room, but nobody has anything to write on. You can see them all trying to comically try to write upside down or like write on their leg, and they're breaking the pencils.
Great comedy.
And it's LOL. It's fun comedy.
whatever.
One of my favorite points of this meeting room is Edwards is like, which is Will Smith's character. He's like, why are we here? Which is just a solid question that anybody would ask. And like Rip Torn looks at one of the guys and like nods to him, and he's like, it's because we're the best of the best of the best, sir. And Will Smith starts laughing at him. He's
Mocks
like,
him.
Yeah, he's like,
Best of the best of the best, sir.
and Rip Torn's like, why are you laughing, basically? And he's like, is there something funny? And he's like, yeah, because he answered this question, and he has no clue why we're here either, which
Calls
is
him Captain
exactly.
America. Captain America over here.
which is very smart, like of
It
Will
is.
Smith, like because he knows that like no one knows, and that they're just giving vague answers. And during this whole testing process, Will Smith eventually, he's struggling. He breaks his pencil. He can't open the test. He rips the booklet. But eventually he realizes there's a table over there. So he just pulls the table over and just starts taking his test on the table.
Little awkward moment where just
smart. It's awkward,
smart.
but he passes that test though.
For sure.
He figures out that there's only one person that can do that. So everybody else kind of takes his lead. They kind of see what's going on. So we kind of move on from that test, and then we go into a big
it's a shooting room essentially.
White room. Yeah, it's just an open room, and there's a bunch of
which
glocks.
is basically what the Universal ride is based off.
Exactly what it's based off of.
It's a big shooting room where they're throwing aliens there and all this.
They have to shoot them out.
Yeah,
it's very dark.
They just say it's dark, and they begin this test, and they're essentially eliminate the threats.
Testing their reflexes and their ability to respond quickly. And all of the cadets and agents and whatever you want to call them are shooting the obvious, fake creatures, just shooting them out. And Will Smith, or Jay, is the only one that takes a moment, and he shoots the character of the little girl. And
just shoots her right
in the
between
head.
the eyes.
Yeah. And at that point, Zed's like, "Oh, hold up a minute." And then they stop what they're doing. Lights come on, and he comes. He's like,
"Why'd you think little Susie had to die?"
Yeah, and he gives them the reason, it wasn't obvious.
Essentially just profiles her. He's like, well, why is she out here in this neighborhood? That guy didn't do anything wrong. He was just hanging from a lamppost. He was having fun.
This guy was dancing. Blah, blah, blah. And, he also points out that Susie's got, astrophysics books in her hand. And he's like, why is a 7-year-old carrying books of things of that nature? There's no correlation there. So,
which means that she had to die.
So, from point A to point B to point F, and, I guess it gets across and it's read properly.
Well, and to sum it up, too, so basically you knew what was going to happen. He doesn't really pass the test. But Rip Torn's looking at Kay, and he's like, "It's your call." And he's like, "Well, he really ran that alien down. I think we can teach him." So Jay comes out, and they neuralize the rest of the guys. And as
they
they're
give him an eye exam, tell him it's an eye exam, and then Kay stops Jay. Was like, "Hey, where do you think you're going, pal?"
Yeah, and he basically tells him the story of aliens landing at the World's Fair in New York, and that they use their saucers as the World's Fair towers. I'm making a long story short here, and he told him that this will come into play later, that there was 3 government agents there and one guy that took a wrong turn down a dirt road. And he shows him pictures, and there's Kay basically with flowers. And he gives and Jay makes a joke out of it. He's like, "Oh, you gave that tall man some flowers." Yeah, so but it'll make sense later on. So he's trying to get him to join. Jay doesn't believe that aliens exist. He's like, "When's the last time you had a CAT scan?" He's like, 6 months ago, it's company policy. And he's like, you probably need to reschedule that. But what changes his mind is he goes to the coffee room and sees the worms that have become a staple of the series.
They're funny.
So there's little cockroaches, and they're
not really even cockroaches. They're like banana slug looking things.
Yeah, they have legs though. And so he sees them, and now he knows it's real. So Kay basically offers him, "Hey, come join us." And he's like,
"Fuck this."
Yeah, he's like,
"You won't,"
but he's like, "You won't exist outside of that." And Jay thinks it over, and then eventually he goes back to the Men in Black the next morning. He's like, "Yeah, I want to do it. I'll do it." And he's like, "Yeah, but I don't want to be called Champ or Sport or anything like that. Or Tiger." And he goes, "Whatever you say, Slick," which was ad-libbed by Tommy Lee Jones.
Of course.
Most of his lines were. And we get this montage of Jay training. And he's like, getting his fingerprints ripped off and burnt off.
There was a great line by Tommy Lee Jones. Jay was like, "I know why you chose me, because I got skills." And he's like, Kay responds with, "Jay, at this point, your skills mean absolute dick." I fucking love that line.
And they're traveling through the Men in Black headquarters, and it's basically like a terminal, like an airport. So you see all the aliens coming in and getting passports and stuff.
The different levels of people who work in that bureaucracy, high and low.
And agents everywhere. And he's showing him around, and they're showing him, he's like, "How do you pay for all this? Who do we report to?" And he's like, "Oh, we own a bunch of patents, like the microwave and like laser disc, and he said something else.
He messes with this orb that it's some sort of like nuclear reactive orb that knocks it off his rocker. It goes flying through the space in the facility, breaking
office,
things left and right. Computers, desks. I think it goes through a couple aliens. It goes into another science lab, breaks a bunch of glass, and it's just kind of like a comedic moment where the rookie made a shitty mistake.
And then he's like, Edwards, let's put it on. It's like, put what on? It's like the last suit you'll ever wear. And to me, I'm thinking like, does he not get a spare? Is this like working at like Dick's Sporting Goods where you only get one polo and you have to wear that until you die?
Dry fit Nike polo.
Yeah, and you have to pay $15 for it. But they start their training process and they get their first assignment, which is to go get this fleeing alien, right?
Yeah, he's leaving the zone in which he is not supposed to leave from.
Right. So they end up, and one of the things I remember as a kid is he goes, all this money in the world, and we're driving in a Ford POS. And I thought that was an actual car. I thought there was an actual Ford POS, which is true.
Ford piece of shit, which is most of their vehicles.
Point of sale.
Ford point of sale, yeah. So they get in the car, and he's like bad mouthing, and then this car just has like a Hemi in it, and it gets gone quick. And anyway, they chase down this alien, and he's fleeing. And he's like, why are you so scared? Why are you fleeing? And his wife's pregnant in the back. She's in labor. So he has Jay go and deliver the baby, and he's trying to talk to the alien. He's like, why are you leaving? Why are you leaving the planet? And he's like, I gotta go. And in the meantime, we see the Twin Towers in the background. It's a really good shot, and it just reminds you of the time, which is...
And it's impossible to escape. Whenever you see that, it's just like immediately you think of what happened. But the good news is that the cinematography in this movie is actually very well done. And there are some very good shots, and that is one of them. It's beautiful. It encapsulates the whole 90s kind of feel with a shot like that.
Jay ends up delivering the squid baby, which is what it turns out to be.
It is a squid baby.
And it throws up all over Jay on his one suit. So that's ruined now forever on his first day. While they're on the way back, he's like, why is he trying to get out of here so quickly or leave the planet? And then we cut to this guy with a cat leaving a jewelry store on his way to meet a friend for lunch.
And who is surveilling him but Edgar?
The biggest cock of all.
Yeah.
Cockroach.
He previously in the scene, Edgar steals an exterminator truck from an exterminator. He kills the exterminator in the barn,
trying to kill other cockroaches.
Correct. He takes his truck and uses that as his vehicle to get into Manhattan. And he's outside this jewelry store watching our friend with the cat. And he's meeting a friend for lunch.
Yeah.
They go to some like Italian diner type thing, and it's a tall man. He is clearly, not of this world.
Which
both of
Jay
them aren't.
saw at the airport, so
Correct.
He's only for a visit.
Yep.
And they go there, and next thing, Edgar has pretend to be a waiter, gotten close,
killed someone in the back room of the restaurant, gets their
him into a fucking
shelf. Underneath the stove or whatever.
It's very gruesome.
He takes their pierogies and he hand delivers them their meal. And at that point,
you hear one of them say, "You'll never get the galaxy," and
because they know he's of the not of this world they're in currently.
And this is when us as an audience start to realize he's looking for this thing called the galaxy, and he kills both of them, and right in front of everybody during broad daylight. No one notices until the cat hisses at him and runs away. But he snags this little thing that he thinks like this little jewelry case and grabs it and runs out.
Oh, there's a bunch of diamonds in it.
Yeah,
tons,
a bunch of diamonds. So you think he's got what he's looking for, and he runs out real fast and gets back to his truck. And then what happens next?
We switch over to Jay and Kay, who think that something's up. I think they've kind of put together the Archelians are doing something to take over the galaxy or something of the sort. Isn't that right?
So people are leaving and
They're
fleeing left and right.
So something big's happening.
Something big has happened. They've gotten word of this creature being on Earth, and they don't really know what it is. And so they have to figure it out. So how they figure it out is Kay takes Jay to this local newsstand, and he's like, we're looking for news. And this is the best reporting on the planet. And he grabs all the supermarket tabloids. It says, my husband's face turned into an ass and I licked it, kind of like those kind of headlines. And he finds the one. It says, somebody's wearing my husband's skin.
Yes.
And so he's like, bingo. So they travel out there and talk to her.
Oklahoma. They get to Oklahoma quickly.
They get there really quick, which in that car they probably would have. They get there really fast, and they start talking to her, and she tells them all the facts that Kay needs. So he's like, we're dealing with a bug now, which is something that's going to destroy the planet. And they neuralize her, and because Jay gives her this backstory, and he's just like absolutely roasting this woman. But they find out that there's a bug out there. So they go back to New York, and so now they know what they're dealing with. And we're seeing Edgar in the van, and he realizes what he's looking for is not in that jewelry case. So at this point, Jay gets his first weapon. What kind of weapon is that, Carl?
The cricket?
The noisy cricket?
The noisy cricket.
Little tiny, pea shooter looking thing.
Little tiny thing that he doesn't want. He wants the big gun. He's like, oh, I think you'll think that's plenty bang for your buck right there, buddy. And he whines and complains about it, and he's like, oh, well, I can't get the big one. But they don't have any time because they have to start chasing. They have to start shooting.
And while he's grabbing the gun, they're chasing this bug and trying to figure out where it is. So Kay ends up saying, like, while in this whole process of trying to find the bug, he's like, well, it's a bug, and that all they do is death and destruction, so we need to go to the morgue and look for bodies. So they show up at the morgue pretending to be FBI agents, and they're going through the bodies, trying to see if they catch anything. And then this is when they get the fresh bodies that came in. Kay goes and looks at another body while Jay is left with a mortician from earlier, mind you, that's already been neuralized. And she is very strange. How would you describe her, Kyle?
Necrophiliac.
One word, I love it. She is hitting on Jay really hard.
Aggressively.
And she's like, I found something in this body. And she sticks his hand in there and is like, basically, there's no organs in the body.
She says, you have pretty eyes. Like, when does the woman ever hit on the man aggressively? And
when it's Will Smith, and
I guess
6% incline for 12 stories.
Not realistic, just also, a symptom of the times. One thing that kind of bothered me, but it is what it is. It's 97,
right?
We let that shit slide.
Oh, and the face opens up like a mask, and then you see this little bitty dying alien creature that's about the size of maybe like
a mouse,
like a little troll doll.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, there is a cat running around. Kyle.
This is where I call bullshit, because as soon as that cat sees that thing in there, as soon as they turn their back, that thing is going to be just eviscerated, just pounced on, suffocated, like just shaken apart until it's like, it's just, please kill me.
I was going to say the galaxy is in Orion's tummy at this point.
It is. It is.
So they see this dying creature, and he basically has enough energy to say the galaxy is on Orion's belt, which confuses them. And they call Kay over. Kay comes there and admits that this is an Archelian royalty, which is another alien race. And no one believes Jay for saying the galaxy's on Orion's belt. He then flashes the girl with the neuralizer before even interrogating her to see what she heard.
She gets flashed a couple times, I feel.
Yeah.
This isn't the first.
Yeah, no, this is her second time.
Yeah.
And then I think she says something else, and he does it again. And like, the funny part is Jay's like, would you quit that? You're going to give her, like, brain cancer. Like, how many times have you flashy thinged that woman? And he's like, a couple. And then they, like, walk out. But now he knows one of the royalty members of the Archelians is dead due to this bug, which causes the Archelians to threaten MIB and the world. And they're saying, deliver us the galaxy, which no one knows what it is.
And all that they have is the galaxy is in Orion's belt, which doesn't make any fucking sense because Zed pulls it up on like an interactive map. He's like, "There's just a cluster of stars. It's not a galaxy. You're making this up, Jay." And Jay's like, "No, I heard what I heard.
Yeah.
It is what it is." So they got to go and gather more clues. They're onto something, but they go and talk to Frank. They're looking for any clues whatsoever. This is important because they go and talk to Frank, and they're just asking anyone and everyone. Kay knows, that Frank is an alien, but they're walking down the same street, I believe, in which they were eating at that restaurant where those two were killed. So they're trying to get a little bit more, backstory, asking anyone. So they see Frank, the pug. He picks him up. He shakes him. He aggressively shakes him. Like, he gives him, like, shaking baby syndrome. It's like, "Talk to me, Frank." And Frank's like this. Kyle, can you do his voice?
I'm trying to remember what his voice sounds like.
I kind of talked like this. "I'm Frank the Pug. I'm not
Like very New York.
very New York, but like, kind of cartoony as well." It was something like that. And I don't know what he gets out of him, but he's saying, he's here and he's going to kill and devour the universe. And at that point, they throw Frank back on the street, and Jay turns and he sees Frank barking at some cat. The cat reacts, hisses back, and Jay notices the big collar that the cat has on his neck. And he's like, wait, I know what it is. I know what Orion's belt is. It's the fucking cat leash or the cat collar. And this is when they're like, we got to get back to the morgue. We got to find that cat.
Yeah.
But Edgar, this cockroach creature, is already making its way back to the morgue because he's figured out where the galaxy is. And this is where we get,
This is where we get like him going through, and he murders David Cross.
Good old cameo there.
And good old little cameo.
Thankfully.
He's such a fucking
Thankfully.
prick.
Yeah, well, he gets
He gets killed.
murdered deeply, and then so in between Edgar trying to ransack the place, he shows up and he's got the mortician hostage at this point. He's like under this gurney that's covered, and he's got like a gun to her.
Yeah, he's holding on to her like ankle while because there's like a curtain around him, and she's looking at Jay, and she's like, "I gotta show you something
Would
important."
really like to go with you.
Yeah.
Like making it obvious that she is saying that she's like, her eyes are pointing down to like, "Hey, I'm basically hostage here."
But they layer it with. They make you think it's like sexual innuendos.
Yes.
When in fact she's just trying to tell Jay,
Which
like, "Hey, I'm screwed here. Can you help me?"
And she gets more and more obvious, which
Yeah.
at that point I'm like, wouldn't he just kill her if she's that obvious about it? Or like, was he waiting on at that point? But anyway, there's a huge standoff and grabbing the Orion's belt.
Yeah, he takes the
cat collar
galaxy
off.
because it's already been established that if you look close into that little like orb that's hanging on the collar, there is a galaxy in this little like glass sphere thing that's hanging there.
And so he takes it and he basically jumps out the window with her, and Jay can't catch up, so they get away. And then we get a really racist moment here.
Great moment.
Great moment, but so he throws a taxi cab driver out and puts her in the driver's seat, tells her to drive. And he throws the taxi cab drivers, what was it, like religious artifacts, or what was it, like ceremonial stuff?
Prayer beads or something.
Yeah.
It was like some sort of crown kind of thing. I'm not too familiar, but he throws that out and drives off. And then Jace looks down in the street and goes, "He got in a cab." And that was like, it was very racist, very stereotypical there. But anyway, they go back to MIB because they're like, he can't get off the planet in cab.
He gets away from them. Like he separated himself. There's no point in doing another chase or shootout. They're not going to catch him.
So they go back to MIB, and Jay, by looking at the wall, sees what we were talking about earlier, the two saucers from the World's Fair. And he's like, "Hey, do those still work?" And that just light bulb goes off, and then they know that's where he's headed.
Yep.
But the Archelians said that the world's going to end in an hour.
Yeah.
So they have an hour.
They have a countdown. It's going on.
A fucking hour to get from, I guess they're in Manhattan. They have to go all the way from
Queens.
Manhattan to
They're going to
New
Queens.
Jersey, right?
No, they're going to Queens because it's right near Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
That's where the World's Fair technically was in that area.
And they take what tunnel was that? You're
The
familiar.
Lincoln Tunnel, but that's not the way to Queens. So maybe their headquarters are in New Jersey and they're going into the city. That didn't make sense geographically speaking, but
The rent in New Jersey would be lower.
it would be. Crime might be a little bit higher depending on where you are, truth be told. But they get through the Lincoln Tunnel to
They have
get to...
alien weaponry. I don't think they're worried about crime.
They're not. They take the Lincoln Tunnel to get to those saucers, and here we have Edgar with a mortician lady, and she's talking up a storm. I'm important. You can't kill me, and he just like tosses her off the ladder he's climbing up to into like the trees below, lets her go. He gets to the top of the ladder, gets into the saucer, and just starts flying. And he flies over a baseball game at good old Shea Stadium. The Mets are playing the
Go Bravos,
the
baby.
Braves. And just a nice little dramatic, cinematic moment. You see a flying saucer over an American baseball game. The outfielder drops what he's doing. The ball hits him in the head. The crowd boos. And they see the saucer in the sky. They've got the big guns. They shoot at the fucking saucer. It hits it. It catches fire. And they see it barreling towards the ground somewhere. And, of course, J and K make their way to that crash site once again, and
There's 8 minutes left.
There's 8 minutes left. They're going back and forth between MIB headquarters and their little crash scene.
Yeah.
And they have a little one-on-one face-off with this fucking cockroach dude.
Which he eats their guns
Right away, and then
Kay's like, eat me.
Eat me! And he starts insulting him, calling him all these things, and he swallows Kay
Guess
whole.
what? He eats him.
Yep.
Eats him whole.
He did exactly what he wanted him to, though. Meanwhile, Jay's on the outside.
Getting his ass beat.
Yeah, he tries to pick up like a fiery branch, but that does nothing. He tries to pick up like a metal 4x4. That does nothing. It's dramatic moments. People get hurled.
And then the alien, so at this point, is trying to climb up the tower to get to the spacecraft, and Jay starts noticing cockroaches near the dumpster where he got hit at, and so he starts stomping on the cockroaches. This buys enough time because this pisses off the cockroach.
Yeah.
He comes down from the saucer and he's confronts Jay about it. And that gives enough time for Kay to fire his weapon from inside the cockroach and blows
him in half.
Yeah, just everywhere.
And they're sitting in his fucking goo, just kind of taking in the moment. Oh, they see the Orion's Belt galaxy. They pick it up. Hey, the day is saved.
Well, and Kay calls them and says, hey, tell the Archelians we have the galaxy. And I timed it. 7 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, so they got it in.
They actually got it in. I was like, there's no way.
But wait, they've shot him in half. They're sitting there. They're commiserating. They have the galaxy. What happens? The other half of the body is still animated, still alive. It's coming over. It's about to eat him. And then, boom, who shoots the last, living entity?
The
last
mortician
half?
with brain cancer.
Yeah.
Or Alzheimer's.
Just fucking eats that thing, and now the cockroach is truly dead.
Yeah, and that's not the end either, because we go straight over to Jay and Kay as they take the girl back. They take her somewhere, right?
Yeah.
They take her somewhere, all right.
Yeah, and she acquiesces. Excuse me, sorry. Little late night humor there. Yeah, and then the Kay and Jay have a little heart to heart, and Kay says he's retiring and he needs out, and at that point he has to be neuralized, right?
Right. So he gives Jay the neuralizer, and he's telling him, hey, this is it. This is like getting your own badge, your own car. Like, you're graduated from rookie school, pal. This is your chance at the big leagues. And he tells him he's going to have to neuralize him. And at that point, Jay... at first he's kind of somber about it, but then he eventually goes along with it, neuralizes Kay. The flash goes off, and then we see one of the tabloids that would be at a newsstand, and it said, my husband woke up from a 30-year coma, and and he's back with that girl,
his wife.
Yeah,
not just a girl, his wife. Jay. This movie has family values, as does Kay and Tommy Lee Jones. So yeah.
So he's back with his wife after a 30-year coma, doesn't remember anything, and then it shows Jay looking at the tabloid. The mortician is now an MIB agent.
She takes Kay's place. She's partners with Jay.
Basically takes Jay's place.
She literally does.
And Jay takes Kay's place.
Yeah, they get in the car and drive away, and
that's it. And we get that cool marble scene where it shows these hands in this universe and pulling the Earth marble out and throwing it in, and it's... Do you remember that?
Nope.
Oh, that was the part that, as a kid, that was a pretty interesting scene because I was very astounded by how small we were in comparison to everything else, and I was kind of like, yeah, that can't be real. But then going to college and understanding kind of the vastness of the universe, I was like, yeah, that's probably the most realistic scene in the whole movie.
Absolutely.
That's probably the most believable part of all of it, and it does kind of tie it together at the end. And they don't just throw away the ending. It's kind of a very fun outro and roll credits scene from there.
Yeah, it's kind of like we are the galaxy on another cat's collar somewhere in the universe.
It's all a fucking simulation, boys.
We're all part of a cat's collar.
Yeah.
It's all a game.
Hey, and guess what? That's the end of the movie.
That
How about
wraps it up, yeah. So, Kyle, let's start with you. First, I want to ask you, is there anything you took away from this movie as an adult versus as a kid?
It's still an entertaining movie. The cinematography I thought was pretty good. It's pretty well done. The character acting that Vincent D'Onofrio does is awesome.
Top notch.
Very, very good. Rip Torn is great. Some of the performances from the aliens and the alien creatures are also quite well done.
Great
There's a
practical
lot of
effects.
pop culture, very fun pop culture references from Elvis to Dennis Rodman.
To Newt Gingrich and Danny DeVito.
Yes. But I do think that it was pretty scary as a child. And still, it's not scary, but it's definitely unsettling as an adult. Some of the themes that are presented and some of the ways that they dispose of people are very creative in sci-fi and like X-Files. But, at the end of the day, it still is very much a fun sci-fi flick. And that's about where it stays. It doesn't really go beyond that. It doesn't really hit on anything super big. So the crossover between child to adult is pretty linear. There's not a lot of like hidden anything here or there. They definitely some innuendo that I didn't pick up on, but nothing vast, nothing Brave Little Toaster in it.
Right. And I agree with you, and I think it does a good job of staying in its own lane, and I think that's what keeps the staying power. It didn't try to do too much. We had the one pop culture reference at the end, and I know that there's a couple more, like with Sylvester Stallone as an alien on like the screen and stuff. But
Newt Gingrich, Danny DeVito, there was another one as well.
This movie didn't really date itself.
No.
Like it felt like
Not
it could have
really.
happened right now.
Except for the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
That will always get you dated.
Andrew, what about you? What about your childhood to now? How do you feel about it?
I would say as a kid, it was a little scarier. It was a little more outlandish. As I've gotten older and matured and understand our place in this vast universe. Honestly, it's definitely cartoony, but like it's more believable, more real as an adult than it is even a kid, in my opinion. Still sci-fi, still a little cartoony and crazy, but I don't know. I think it hits almost better in my older age, honestly.
Yeah.
And I will say that I enjoyed watching this a second time compared to my first about a year ago.
I agree. I actually enjoyed the second go around. I was kind of hooked on it a little bit more and enjoyed it a lot more. And
I'll watch this again.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the next few months.
This
but,
is one of those movies that we remember as kids that we throw on in the background and you catch glimpses of it, but you're never mad about having it on in the background.
No.
To me, it kind of goes in that same category as Indiana Jones. They're two different movies and two different styles.
Yeah.
But that same kind of like almost whimsical family style humor.
100%.
But it yet still has the adult undertones. I think it like works the same way.
I think it matures quite well.
Yeah.
It ages like fine wine.
And that's why we still have the
Fine Wayne?
Universal one.
What's aging like Fine Wayne there, Andrew?
Fine wine.
Fine Wayne?
Fine wine. Ages like fine wine. So, you heard me, you little shit.
Kyle, does this movie hold up?
Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah.
It definitely holds up. I agree 100%. There's obviously way better sci-fi movies out there, but there's a
But
lot.
there's not any too many of them you have to actually devote time and watch and listen to, and there's massive amounts of dialogue. And
This one's no stakes, but yet
it
still has stakes.
Exactly. You kind of know where it's headed at times, and it's fresh, and it's nothing too serious.
Yeah.
And that's a positive for it. It's digestible sci-fi.
And anybody can watch this, and it could be a gateway sci-fi movie where like you could watch it and then move on to like something like Alien, which is more intense. Or
I would like to go and watch Men in Black 2. I have never seen Men in Black 2.
It's sad.
Is it
not-
actually? Ah, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I remember being disappointed by that one as a kid. Maybe that's when we do down the road.
Maybe in like 6 years.
Yeah, let us know while we're going. So
I do want to give it a little quick rating. Just go, around in a circle on our little Richter IMDb scale. I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I would say 7.1. Kyle?
I'd say 6.8.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
it's good. It's definitely good, but I'm not going to say it's approaching like Indiana Jones numbers for me.
Well, Indiana Jones is in the 8s for me, for sure.
I know, but I'm going to say like the 6.8, again, it is good, but there are a couple moments where I fall out of it. And some of the non-believable parts are a little too non-believable, like the car on the top of the Lincoln Tunnel part is chintzy, kind of dumb.
Yeah, because they're not neuralizing any of those people, so they just saw a car drive through the tunnel.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
But I think it plays into the whimsicalness of this, so it doesn't.
It does, but I have to be consistent though, because I would say that for other things. So
for the record, it is a 7.3 on IMDb.
Wow, we all met like on either side of that.
We were right there. Yeah.
Pretty good.
That wraps up our birthday. We can't believe we've been here for a year. I thought we'd be canceled by now, or at least wouldn't have the funds to continue.
You have to be popular to be canceled.
That's
Chase.
true.
And
That's
we
true.
are complete and utter worthless fucks. So,
but we want to thank you all for listening to our podcast, keeping it alive for a year. We look forward to all the stuff we have around the corner for you, more big things to come. And you know what we do here. We reach into your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they truly hold up. Today, we pulled Men in Black out and found out, Kyle, what does it do?
It holds up.
There it is. Andrew, do you know what we're doing next?
When Harry Met Sally, I think.
That's right. Demolition Man is up next. In the meantime, you can always follow us on Instagram, and we're on TikTok now.
And Pornhub.
And YouTube. All the four major favorites.
Xvideos.
Nope,
and
not there.
Yeah.
And you can also find us on a Fortune 500 company's top 10.
That's in there.
I wish, but no.
Well, in the meantime, go follow us on those social media platforms. We will see you next for Demolition Man.
When Harry Met Sally.
All right.
Bye-bye.